Hello and blessings to you. Hi, I'm Coach Sophia. I'm so grateful that you are spending some time with me today. If you have logged in, I truly believe that the Lord led you here because I'm here because He sent me. um, as you can see, the title of this video is my testimony, and I am going to give it unapologetically. I have been running for so long. The Lord has made it very clear what He wanted me to do. And I'm so blessed in my life right now. But what He want me to do is He want me to take you on a journey. Because the person you see today was not the same person 10ish years ago. The confident woman you see here today, and let me say woman of God, because I was always confident within me, within my skin, the way I carry myself, the way I dress, all those things. But I realized that my confidence in Christ was not there. And we're going to talk on this channel. If you haven't watched my intro video, you need to go back and watch it. But we're going to talk on this channel, of course, about faith, but we're going to talk about identity and how we get to our purpose. Something the Lord showed me years ago is that so many people don't know who they are. And because they don't know who they are, they struggle with what is my purpose? What was I created for? And so, what they've done is they now have taken their role as a mother, as a wife, as an employee, in as a husband, as a son, and they have now encapsulated themselves in that role and said, "This is my purpose." And I'm not saying that serving is not a part of your purpose, but again, because we don't know who we are, we struggle with our purpose. And so, me sharing my testimony, it's not about putting anyone on blast. Like, I'm going to be very mindful of not saying names, and I'm going to be very mindful even of locations, just because, again, this is about exposing the enemy. It's not about exposing people. And see, I can say that I was running, but at the end of the day, God knew there was just some things I wasn't ready for. Because if I'd have shared this testimony with you, a couple of years ago, maybe even just a year ago, I would have been ready just to tell everything, right? And again, not to try to get back at nobody, but I don't feel like I need you to hear me. But now I'm able to come from a place of I want you to hear me, not hear, but hear. I want this to resonate with you because some of you are in a place in your life where you're stuck. Some of you are in a place in your life where you know you're living in cycles, but you're like, how do I get out of it? And let me tell you, that was me for a very long time. There were some cycles that I started to pick up on, but I didn't know, how do you break this? How do you get out of this, right? But it took the love of the Lord, Him being compassionate, Him being compassionate, Him being patient with me, taking me by the hand, and as a loving Father, walking me through this process. And let me tell you, it truly was a process. Um, so I want you to bear with me. Again, this is part one because I can't give you everything at one time. I got to give you chunks because after this is over, I want you to stop. I want you to go back and replay it. I want you to listen to it. I want you just to stop and sit with it. If it make you feel some type of way, stop and sit with it. Why am I feeling that way? Why am I crying? Why do I feel a little bit offended? And this is her testimony, right? Like, stop and sit with it. I feel like sometimes we don't sit still long enough to really realize what's going on. We immediately draw a conclusion. We immediately, especially now with social media, we want to get in the chat and start, you know, stop and sit with it. Just stop and sit with it and ask yourself and say it out loud. Why do I feel this way? Why did this offend me? Why does this have me crying? Oh my goodness, I can relate to that. And this is not for everyone, but this is for someone. And I just believe that someone is you. And so after you watch it, if you believe it'll be a blessing to someone else, please share it. Make sure that you subscribe. I do want you to comment. Let me know what part resonate with you, and definitely like the video so we can kick this algorithm in, and start sharing out the videos so that other people can be blessed. Amen. So I'm going to just start with sharing a little bit about myself as a child. And then, I'm going to walk you through as I developed as a woman. I'm not going to hit in detail on everything because some things are irrelevant, but some things I will come back and do some real talk videos on specific things. Because let me tell you, where I am now, and to see that all of these things I'm about to share, God used it for my good. We know Romans 8 and 28, that He worked all things out for our good, for those who love Him according, called to His plan, to His purpose, right? And those who love Him. So even in my shortcomings, even when I fell short, even when I habitually sin, God had a plan. And He's like, that's okay. I'm going to take that and I'm going to use that as well. And so I just want you to bear with me. I want you to walk with me. I want you to listen. But again, not just here. I want you to listen here. And when I say here, not your heart, your spirit. We know that we are, just like God is a triune, we are three parts. We are spirit, we are soul, and we are body. Amen. And so I want you not to even listen with your soul, because we know your soul is your mind, your will, and your emotions. We don't need your emotions all entangled. This is a season that God want to break you free. He want to show you some things about you so that you can truly live out the purpose in which He created you for. So I want you to listen with your spirit. Maybe even pause the video now and just pray and say, Lord, allow me to hear what my spirit, decrease this flesh, decrease the soul. Lord, allow me to hear what my spirit. Allow me to hear what you're saying to me. Make it personal. What are you saying to me? I know that this is Sophia's testimony, but what are you saying to me? Amen. So growing up, I always knew I was different. And I can't even say how I knew. It's just, people say it's annoying and Manoa. I just knew I was different. But I didn't like it though. I didn't like feeling different. I didn't like feeling like I didn't fit in with my friends. I didn't like feeling like I didn't fit in with my cousins. Like I wanted to fit in. I just never fit in. And so I grew up with in a very domestic violent home. It was also a lot of fighting and fussing and cussing around me, which made it very challenging for me as a young lady. First of all, I was a kid, but even as I started to grow and develop, I just look back and I can see how those things affected me. I can see even today as a grown woman how some of the things that I do, some of the way I responded, it all stemmed from childhood. And we're gonna talk more about that. But my mother was an alcoholic and my father was a crackhead and heroin addict. And I'm not saying this to disrespect my parents. They have their own testimonies, and I'm not here to share their testimony because, praise be to God, they both are healed and delivered today. My mother, she is a minister of the gospel, and so she's going forth. My daddy, he is drug free right now. He's still trying to figure some things out life, and to God be the glory. But I grew up in this home and it was very challenging because I look back and I think it was a lot of nights I probably didn't even sleep through the night because it was just always so much like turmoil. And now understanding spiritual things, I can see the spiritual side of what I experienced. And I can see how the enemy was definitely planting seeds to keep me from my purpose as a young girl. Like, let me plant this, let me plant that. Because when she get older, this is going to hinder her here. Let me, you know what I'm saying? But God was still always with me. So we had a family friend that we all called her auntie, and she is who introduced me to Christ. It wasn't my parents. I even remember my mother telling me when I was a baby, she actually took me to church and got me Christian. And so she was the one who introduced me to the Lord. So she would make sure she would come and get me and my siblings and take us to church. And there was even a season my mother sent me and my younger brother to live with her for a couple of years. And And that's a whole nother story, even living with her. But the problem with living with this particular auntie, even though she introduced me to God, she was a hypocrite. I didn't know this back then. I was young. Couldn't put, verbiage to what was going on, but I know that now. It made it challenging for me because she's telling me one thing, but yet I'm witnessing her doing another thing, But what can I say? I was a kid. And if you all around my age, I'm in my mid 40s, kids would have been seen and I heard. So what was I going to say? What was I going to do? But I was one of those children. I really actually listened to the pastor. I remember um, the pastor saying, like you can pray and ask God for anything. And I remember as a little girl praying and asking God for a good husband. I said, Lord, I don't want a man that's gonna fight on me. I don't want a man that's gonna cuss me out. Cause see, these are things I witnessed. I was like, God, I don't want that. As a little girl, I remember praying this when I should have been outside playing with my friends. You know what I'm saying? Playing with my Barbie dolls. I was truly praying to God. I always saw things. I heard things. I sensed things. And I can remember about the age of 7, 9-ish. I had this dream and it terrified me. And I was at my auntie house, and when I woke up, I told her about the dream, and I'm crying, and I'm just distraught because again, I'm only like 7, 9, and this dream was just like whoo. And remember I told you she was a hypocrite. I learned that she was just one of those good old churchgoers, like just faithful. I mean, she was truly faithful. We was at church, we served on the usher board, we sung in we was at a mission meeting, we have set up, we have breakdown, we have cleaned the church, like we did all the things. And but she was such a hypocrite in so many ways. And again, this is not even a turn on her character. I mean, she's no longer with us, but this is not even about that. But I'm just trying to paint a picture of what I went through as a child. And so, um, again, looking back, I understand she really wasn't in tune with the Lord. It was all about the works. So when I told her about the dream, she was like, I know somebody I can take you to. And I'm sure she can help interpret the dream. So we go, and she take us to this woman of God, and this woman of God ended up being of such a blessing to me and my brother throughout the years, while we was there at that particular church. And she ended up just blessing us, and 'cause we grew up poor, so there were times she would take us shopping for school, and just she was just such a blessing to us. So this kind of, I think, kicked off that relationship. So I go and I tell her about the dream, and she says to me, Sophia, she said, and she talked to me because I was a little girl. She said, you have such a big gift. She said, but God is not going to reveal it to you all at one time because you're so young. It would overwhelm you. It would scare you. So He's going to give you a little bit at a time. She said, and as you get older and you mature, you start to understand more about God. You'll understand your gifts. Like, oh, okay, okay, And so let me share the dream with you all. And I still remember this dream like it was yesterday. So I was standing on this cliff, but I'm standing like back. So I'm looking out and I can see the end and I can see where it drops off. I was so high that I couldn't even see like trees in the background. All I could see was like sky. I don't recall it being like another cliff on the other side. I just remember seeing the drop off. Like I was standing back, but I could still see there was a drop off. And so I'm standing there, and of course I'm looking around, and all of a sudden there wasn't like a sound or nothing crashed, but all of a sudden the front half of that cliff fell down. And when it fell down, all this smoke came up. And when the smoke came up, I heard voices, people yelling, people screaming, you know, um, now again looking back, almost like they were in hell. Like I've never, God's never showed me hell like that. I've heard other people testimonies, and of course I know I read in the word, but it was like I could hear fear. I could hear like just the need of being rescued, and they were just like it was just all, and it was like men, women, it was just like, And I would just remember standing there going, as of course I'm watching all the smoke. And again, I didn't see anything at this point. I'm just seeing the smoke, but I'm hearing. And I was just, just sitting there like this, like, you know, and then I woke up. And so that's all the dream was. But again, what I sensed, and so when she said what she said to me, it just all makes sense. And again, not to me at that moment, but as I continued to go to church, I continued to listen to, what the pastor was saying. I don't recall reading my Bible a lot at that age. But I did like to read, so I'm sure I was reading the Bible. But I remember the Lord was using me to prophesy. Didn't know that. I didn't even the church I grew up in, they didn't talk about prophecy. They didn't talk about the Holy Ghost. I didn't know nothing. Y'all, let me tell you, the woman y'all see, I'm telling you, the woman y'all see today, I knew nothing about none of that. But I remember one time I was sitting in the living room with my mother and her friends. So we lived in a small apartment. And some apartments, they have the living room and then they have like a little area that you can use as your dining area. So she just had like a little square table with four chairs, and her friends was sitting over. It was her coworker. It was her coworker, and her coworker's daughter. And her coworker's daughter was an adult. And now this day, I don't know how this it had to be the Lord, because when my mother friends came over, it was go in your room or go outside. You ain't sitting around listening to grown folks talking. But they was sitting at the table drinking beer, and I'm sitting on in the how most long couches have the three sections. I'm sitting in the middle and I'm watching TV. Again, don't know how that happened because there was a no go in our house. You don't sit around going for grown folks while they talking. And so I remember the daughter sharing, and I could tell it really bothered her. And she was telling her mother that, that she was talking about how she couldn't get pregnant and she had to go back to the hospital and get checked out to find out what was going on. And so I'm still looking at TV and I say, his soldiers are not marching. And they stop and they all look at me and they start laughing. My mom was like, girl, what you say? I said, his soldiers are not marching. I kept watching TV. Y'all, I didn't know what I was saying back then. But the Lord reminded me of that. And recently, like within the last couple of years, and he said, I was used you even being a prophesy. And he revealed to me that I was telling her the problem is not you. The problem is your husband. He's not producing. He the one need to be going to the hospital, not you. And I said, wow, God, like, and that really encouraged me. Again, back then, I didn't know what was going on. Well, as time went on and I, was just growing, in age, again, around my auntie and just seeing the hypocritical things she was doing. I decided to move back home. My mother, now I'm a little older, now my brother, we're older. So, my father is now at the house. My mother, she just kind of got tired of, the things that he was doing and she put him out, but now other things are going on in the house. Now it's the boyfriends. And so it still didn't change, even though it was my father, it was still, all the drinking, all the fuss and all the fighting. It was just a lot going on. But now I'm older, so I'm not really paying a lot of attention to it, but I'm not really getting that attention that I need as a young lady, so as a maturing young lady, from her mother. And again, I don't hold any of this against my mother. I mean, my mother have a very great relationship. So again, it's not me bad mouthing her. I'm just trying to paint a picture because this helped me understand in my latter years what really was going on with me. And so I slowly stopped going to church. I didn't completely stop going, but once I moved back home, I wasn't going as much. Of course, I'm trying to figure out who I am. I'm now I'm now a teenager. I'm hanging out with my friends. I'm trying to figure out how to do my hair and how to dress and all these things as a young woman. You're trying to figure yourself out, right? And um so again, I'm not going to church as much. And now I'm older, so now I have an opinion. And again, I would never be rude and I would never be disrespectful. But I did not like how, and I never told her to her face, but I didn't like how she was being a hypocrite. So even when I slowed down from going to church, she'd always tell me, "You need to get yourself to church. Why you ain't been coming to church? You back home with your mom, and now you think you grown and blah 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 blah." And what I really want to say is like, no, I'm tired of watching you lying. That's what I really want to say. I'm tired of sitting around listening to you talk about the past and all the people in the church. But then we go to church, you hugging on them and shaking their hand and smiling on their face. And so they turn their back, you snap your nose. I'm tired of that. And so I went through, very challenging times, even as a young lady, and those things are not important. As the Lord lead, I'll come back and say some more specifics. But now I graduate. So one thing I did know, I knew I was going to graduate. I'm the only one of my mother four children that did graduate from high school, and I knew I was going to graduate, even though it was challenging, it was tough. In school, I didn't like school at all, but I knew I was smart. But I knew I was going to graduate. That was not dropping out was not an option. Having sex and having babies at that age was not an option. Um, and so I graduate. I go away for college for a little bit. Didn't like it. Didn't like being away from home. I think I look back and I'm like, why did you want to go back home? It was nothing going on. I was from a smaller town. It wasn't nothing going on. So now I come back, but now I'm starting to realize, wait a minute, I am really cute. I got a cute little shape. Wait a minute, hold on. And so growing up, I've always had like older friends. So now I come back from college and, I link up with some people that I knew before I even went. And, I'm hanging out with them and I'm going to the club and I'm drinking. And I got to give y'all this little tidbit. I come from a family and a family of dancers. Like, we love to dance. Do you hear me? If any of y'all know me personally, y'all know my family from my mama to my sister, to my aunties, to my cousins, now my children. You know what I mean? Like, we all just love to dance. But that was the thing that would keep me going. I would go to the club and dance and you know what I mean, and have on my look, whatever I got on. And so I end up settling down with someone. Well actually I get in a car wreck and unfortunately my oldest niece passed because the guy ran the stop sign and he hit right on her side and she passed away instantly. And so that was a turning point in my life because the friends that I was hanging out with, going to the club with, hanging out, they were not there for me. One stopped by one time to see me, and then she gave me a ride somewhere because, of course, my car was towed up. I was on crutches, I could barely walk. But people that I thought really loved me and cared for me, they didn't. We used to hang out and have a good old time, but we go party it up, you know what I'm saying? We talk to the dudes like but they wasn't my friends. And so not a true friend. And we call a lot of people our friend. Well, not me anymore, but some people still may call people their friends and not really their friends. I realized they were just my associates. And to be honest, we even didn't even really hang out during the weekday. It was mainly getting together on the weekend. We live close to a military town. So, they had all the little spots, because you got all the soldiers hanging out. And it was always fun. I really wasn't into the soldiers like that. Like where I came from, the girls, I heard a lot of them say, I want to get wife by a soldier. Because, in their mind, I get the benefits, you know what I'm saying? He get extra pay because now we're married. And, I saw a lot of just arranged marriages and, you know what I'm saying? But that was just, I enjoyed hanging out with them, but I just wasn't that one that I got to get wife by a soldier. And I drive their cars and stuff like that, but I wasn't that one that was like just thrilled about them like some of the girls where I was from. And quite a bit of them did. They did get married. Now a lot of them ain't married today to them, but they did get married. So they got what they wanted. I always tell people sometimes you got to be careful what you ask for because you just may get it. Don't mean it's gonna be good for you, but you may actually get it. So anywho, um, I end up meeting this guy. So I met this guy prior to um the car wreck. And he was my type, but he was with this guy that I knew just from the area. But he didn't live in our town. He lived probably like 45 minutes east of where we lived. And so he did give me a number. I just kind of took it, just being nice. And so then when I got in this car wreck and I couldn't work and I couldn't go to work, I barely walk, um, he happened to call me. It was like out the blue. Looking back, I know it wasn't just out the blue, but and I was lonely. I was hurting. I didn't know what was going to happen next. And so we end up just conversing almost all day, every day. And what I realized is that he was a good distraction for me. He was a very good distraction for me at the time. So I get my settlement from the car wreck. I get my first apartment. I'm now 20 years old. I get my first apartment. And I end up allowing him to come move in with me. I knew somebody to help him get a job because again, he lived in my town. So when he came, he had nothing. And so that was a very challenging relationship because I was with a man who didn't know who he was. He wasn't used to working. He was a mama's boy. And everything, of course, was my fault. Everything was my fault. And that was my first, I guess I would say, serious relationship. And from that person, I started seeing, when I look back on my life, I can see the cycles that I got caught in. And I'm gonna share more of that later. You guys going to stick around, but um, so we end up moving in together. He was really good at first, and then of course, you know, um, I think he was trying to find ways to get out of the relationship. Like he liked it, the benefit of the relationship, but he didn't like the structure of the relationship, if that makes sense. Because again, where he moved from, and again, I'm not trying to talk ill of nobody, but the way he lived was nowhere close to where I live, just as far as the upkeep of the house and, what I'm saying, and the things that he was around and, and his mindset. Even though I wasn't living as a woman of God, we were unequally yoked, even back then. And so I do my best to help him, to get on his feet, to stay on his feet. So again, he liked the benefit of that, but he wanted to still be able to do whatever he wants to do. And that wasn't working for me. So long story short, with that particular relationship, I got pregnant. I wasn't mad about it. I mean, this was my man, you know what I mean? But we end up separating. And again, okay, let me slow down. I'm sharing this again because I want y'all to see the cycles that I was in. But it has a root. And if y'all know anything about my ministry, I'm always talking about we're gonna break vicious cycles. And I realize that is part of my purpose to help people identify and then break those things because they've come to hinder what God has called us to do. So we break up while I'm pregnant. I think we break up, I'm probably like 5, 6 months pregnant. Um, He came he came back after she was born. Matter of fact, he was there when I had her. I didn't want him there with my sister. She was like, "Girl, that's that baby dad." I don't even like that term, baby dad. That's that baby's dad. Let him be there. But I had already learned by now he's inconsistent and he's not a man of his word. And so he showed up the evening when I had her, and he was gone by the next day. And so it was just this back and forth thing with him. He'll disappear for months. He might even disappear for a year, then he'll pop up. And you know what I'm saying? It was just, I was like, dude, I ain't got time for you. You know what I'm saying? I'll take care of my baby. So after that, I got into another relationship with someone that I knew I met when I first came back from college when I was 19, and didn't like him. I thought he was a clown, and but now over the years he kind of grew on me. We hadn't seen each other in years, and now we see each other. And I have a baby, and he's like, "What? You got a baby?" So we end up, linking up, and we just decided we gonna really try to do this. Like we gonna try to do this, and we did it. We did it for 13 years. We did it. We did it for 13 years. I ended up having twins by him. I mean, and a lot of people actually thought my oldest daughter was his because when we got together, she was 5 months by the time we got together, and he would keep her when I'm at work. If he wasn't working, and people see him like, "Oh my goodness, she look just like you," and he'd be like, "Thank you." He never told it. He never said anything different. And then I had my twins. 2 years later, so they kind of still close in age, and so everybody, all even his family, they always thought for a long time they thought she was his, and so 13 years later, so now we didn't live together, we didn't got married, and we didn't get married right away. He proposed within that first year, I kept putting off the marriage because I kept saying, some got to change. Some got to change. Because now I'm going to be honest. I start to see some things that I saw in the first boyfriend. I need y'all to track with me. I'm telling you, I'm taking y'all somewhere. And I was like, no, some things got to change. Sometimes the way he responds and him shutting down. I was like, oh my goodness, I can't deal with these grown men shutting down. Like, how are we going to fix something? If we're not having a conversation, if we're not talking about it, like, how are we going to fix it? And so we finally got married, and some things happened in the marriage. And again, a lot of that is irrelevant as of now. And so now we're 13 years later, and I'm praying to God. I'm saying, Lord, fix my marriage. God, help me to be able, show me, God, what I need to do to fix this. And I'm praying to God. I'm sincerely praying to God. And so I have this dream. And in the dream, I saw me and my mother standing on this stage. And it was like thousands of people. Like, I mean, it was so many people. I couldn't even see like the end. So many people. And I had a mic, and my mother had a mic. Now, I didn't hear us say anything. And at that moment, I actually don't think we were talking. I think we had already said whatever we said. But in that moment in the dream, everybody was just applauding, just applauding. And what I sensed in my spirit was we had just released the word. Now, at this time, I didn't even know I didn't even know I was a preacher. So, because me and my ex-husband, we went to church together. Um, but I could honestly say it was more of just going for the sake of growing. Like, he really liked the look of us going as a family. We all dressed alike. Like, I'll be honest, like, a lot of people looked at us as like the Cosbys. If y'all remember I mean the Huxtables, if y'all remember the Cosby show, that's how a lot of people looked at us. Like, but I'm thinking, y'all don't know the hell I'm going through. And he probably was saying the same, but I'm just saying from my point of view, right? Um, and so I have this dream, and I wake up, and I'm like, okay, God, I don't know what that dream was about, but I'm praying to you about my marriage. Like, I don't know what that dream's about. And I just blew the dream off. So shortly after this dream, we end up separating. And mm, I left and moved to the city of Austin. And he stayed in our hometown. He kept the dog. I took the kids. And after me relocating, I can tell you that my life was never the same. It was never the same. God revealed to me that dream that I had when I was like, I'm praying for my marriage. He said that dream, in that dream, he was telling me, your marriage is over. Your marriage is over. I'm trying to get you somewhere. We're not fixing that because I didn't ordain that. Your marriage is over. And of course, I didn't know that then, but he revealed that to me some years later. Like, I was like, wow, okay. So I moved to the city of Austin. I'm now a single mother, something I never wanted to be. I'm now going through a divorce, something I never saw. I feel like my life is falling apart. I'm trying to be strong for my children. I'm trying to keep up this facade. I'm trying to, I remember going through a season of depression, and I didn't even realize I was depressed. And if I didn't have to work, when my kids were at school, in the house, I closed all the blinds, and I would lay in the dark all day long. And then maybe about an hour or two before the kids got ready to come home, I would get up, I would shower, I would clean up, I would start cooking. You know what I mean? So when they walked in the house, it looks like mama been just doing a thing, but they don't know I've been sleep. And maybe not always sleep, but just laying in the dark all day. I'm like, God, how did I get here? And then I'm trying to communicate with this man that's not really trying to communicate with me. And, it was just a lot going on. It was just a lot going on. I'm hearing all the things being said about me. I'm like, but he's not telling the whole story. And I remember I want to lay into some people. I ain't gonna even lie, because a lot of people had a lot of things to say. And I'm like, wait a minute, because I know some of your business. You really ain't got no words to be saying. But not only that with him, I was really disappointed because I'm like, you're not telling the whole story though. And I just remember the Lord telling me, don't even respond to it. Because I wanted to respond. I want to put some people on blast, but God was truly doing a new thing in me. So I moved to Austin. And him and I used to go out and party. Remember I told y'all I'm a dancer. So now I'm single. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to I'm trying to maneuver through, and I wasn't dating immediately at first, even though he moved. Y'all know men, and I ain't saying all men, but most men I know they don't waste no time, baby. When I say he didn't waste some time, he didn't waste some time. And again, I'm not bad mad for him. I'm just saying, but I didn't want to do like, well, he moving on, I'll move on. You know what I'm saying? But I did. I hung out and hung out with the guys, and now I'm older. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's different because I'm used to going out with my husband. You know, I'm used to if guys look at me a certain kind of way, he like, oh, this is my wife. You know what I mean? Like now it's me by myself. You know, and whereas yeah, I enjoyed the attention to a degree, but I was like, I'm a one woman. I don't need all these different men like affirming me or, you know what I'm saying? I definitely like men sicking at me. Like, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm in these streets by myself. And so I linked up with a couple of females, and so we started hanging out, and I'm going out and I'm doing things, but I'm still trying to be mindful that I got these children, and now they're older. Now at this time, they in like the fourth and fifth grade, again, they know now they do understand mom and daddy going through divorce, so that's hard for them. Daddy already got a new woman that he want to take them around, and I'm not really approving of it right away because not because I'm mad and jealous, but because first of all we're still married. Second of all, you know what I'm saying? Like they're used to having a mother and father. Like I didn't want to just throw them into that, but of course people in his circle made it seem like I was hating. I don't know. I don't even know if y'all still say that today, but I wasn't hating. I'm thinking about my children. And so, because so often we just throw them into things and they don't have an opinion. And I tried to really do things different from with my children than my parents did with me. And so even with me going out, I'm trying to like, even though I knew they knew I was still going out, but I tried to like wait till they went to bed. They was down for the night. Like I tried to not do so much in their face, and I never brought men around. You know what I mean? Like I think that next 4 years, I think I might have brought like one guy around, but that's because we did get serious at one time and we used to go to church, and so my kids knew him. So, but but so I left my hometown in September of 2013. Let me give y'all a timeline. I left there in September of 2013. Fast forward to Mother's Day of 2014, a coworker invited me to her church. And I had already been praying to God. Mind you, let me say this: I never stopped going to church. I mean, I was tithing, I was doing all the things, because I'm a true believer. You know what I mean? I was just at that time, my mom would say I was straddling the fence, which still would have sent me straight to hell. But I was going to church, right? I never stopped going to church. So, 2014, my friend invited me to a church. Now I have been praying to God because the church I was going to was this really big old church. It's one of the big old churches. After your pastor see you in the grocery store, he ain't gonna know you're a member. Matter of fact, he might try to give you a card, invite you to his church, and you'll be like, I'm already a member because it was so big. And I've been praying to God, saying, God, I want a smaller church. I want a church where my pastor know me. I want my kids to be able to have a relationship with their pastor. That's what I'm used to growing up. Well, I get invited to this church on Mother's Day of 2014, and it was just this feeling while I was there. And I said, I'm gonna have to come back and visit this church a little more often. And so I didn't get back to visit the remainder of that year. I didn't. But that church was always on my mind. It was always that I had an encounter with God in that place. Like I felt him away. I hadn't felt him since I was a little girl. And so my birthday is in January. So the end of the year was approaching, and me and some friends, we were planning for my birthday party because, again, I like to party, I like to have fun. So we're planning this party. And I remember sitting with my friends and I said, this is going to be the last party I could have like this. And they said, what do you mean? I said, I'll never be able to have another birthday party like this again. They was like, Sophia, what do you mean? I said, God is calling me to serve him. It was like, you go to church. Sophia, you go, you know. I said, mm-mm. I said, y'all, I can't explain it. It's different this time. And I couldn't explain the time. I did, but let me tell y'all, in the realm of the spirit, now again, I wouldn't have said this at this time, but I know now in the realm of the spirit, it was like I can feel a pulling, like my soul was locked up and God was pulling me out of that thing. And so the new year hit, and I'm feeling this tug. It's even stronger now. So much I'm getting nervous. And I'm like, Lord, now this was a foolish prayer, y'all. I think about it. I said, Lord, you could have snatched the breath out of my body. And I'm praying, saying, Lord, let me just have a birthday party. Just let me have a birthday party. I'm like, I want to have a sinful birth. I'm praying, asking him, let me have a sinful birthday party. But nevertheless, so the closer it's getting to my birthday, the more I'm feeling this tug and I'm getting nervous. I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't be all these plans. You know what I'm saying? We don't order my cake. I got people coming from out of town. Cause my job moved out of town, right? I got people coming into town. I'm like, I ordered all this, and I'm like, so I was led to that church. I want to say the Sunday before my party. I was like, I'm just gonna go. I'm just going. I'm just going. And when I say I went, mm, again, another encounter with God. But I was like fighting it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's almost like he showed up and stood right in front of me and said, "For real, Sophia?" And I was like, "Just this one last time, just one more time, just one more time. I promise I'll never do it again." So I left the church and I felt so guilty because I knew I held back from God was calling me. I knew I held back. So now I'm a little nervous as well. Like, what's going to happen for my birthday party? So come time my birthday party, and the first, so I had like a two-part day. So we all showed up at this restaurant and had some drinks and ate some food and had a good time. And several of us met up there. And then once everybody got done eating, my best friend at the time, her and another friend left, and they went to like the second spot, which was kind of like a lounge bars type thing. And they want to go set up, put up the balloons and all that. 'Cause we had an area reserve. They want to make everything nice before I walked in. So then now we go to that second spot, and we drinking, and I wasn't a big shot person, but I would take a shot periodically. It was my birthday, so people buying rounds of shots. So we all, my sister, she come from out of town. My cousin, he lived in Austin, so him and his girlfriend came, and we was having a good time. All of a sudden, maybe about 45 minutes, an hour in, all of a sudden, it was like God shut my ears to the music that was going on. And as I was looking at people, y'all know sometimes you see in movies where people like maybe they're drunk and they're looking and like when they turn their head, like it's a drag, you know what I mean? Like it's a streak behind the people's head or the move behind the movement. The music, it's like the music shut off, and I'm looking at people and I could see demons on people's faces. I'm like, ooh. Now, this is not the first time I've actually seen something like this, but this is the first time where everyone I looked at, even people at my table, I can see. So now I'm drinking. I'm like, oh my goodness. I was like, oh my goodness. And so I sit there and I look around, and it wasn't going away. It wasn't going away. So there's a round of shots in front of me. It was probably, I don't know, it was quite a bit of us. So we had all these shot glasses, and a friend had went to the restroom, so we was waiting on her to come back, and we was gonna take the shots. And I just remember, I was like, I can't do this no more. But I didn't even think long about it. I sat there. I looked at my best friend. I said, I'm going home. She said, what? I said, I'm going home. She was like, Sophia, what do you mean you're going home? Like all these people here, your sister didn't drove my town, your cousin here, da, da, da. At this point, now I'm getting up. I don't know, but I'm going home. I went over to hug my sister. She's like, where you going? I'm going home. Now, mind y'all, it's only about 11:30 maybe at this time. I was like, I'm going home. The party was just getting started. I go home. I slept well. I was at church the very next day. And when, you know how like a lot of churches, they do the open of the doors to the church. So he did a little different that morning, but I know that was all for me. He didn't, oh, we're gonna open doors to church if there's anybody. No, as soon as he got done preaching, like I felt the spirit of the Lord. Like, it's like I could sense the angels in the room. And he said, if you would like to, he didn't even waste time. We're gonna open the doors to a church. As soon as he got done preaching, and they of course they playing the prophetic music, and he says, if there's anyone who would like to join the church, is there anyone who would like to rededicate their life to Christ? He was like, stand up now. Let me tell y'all, I did not voluntarily raise my hand, but my hand and my legs all was in agreement, and they just stood me up. And I'm going, because I didn't raise my hand, I'm going, minister, go over there and pray with that young lady. And so one of the ministers came over and prayed with me, and my life was never the same. My life was never the same. My life was never the same. Let me tell you all something. God is so intentional. And so often we say, I don't hear God, or I don't sense God. But it's because we're out of alignment. And what I had to learn is God is always speaking. But we can't hear because all of the clutter and the noise. When I rededicated my life to Christ that day, I can honestly say my testimony is not that God stripped everything away from me, but he gradually did a new thing in me. The thing was already done in the realm of the spirit, but for it to manifest in the present, it was a gradual thing. So I did keep going out, just telling y'all my testimony. Some of y'all gonna say, well, God just, he snatched it away from you. That way, my testimony. But I want to help somebody because you're in that place. And people are telling you, if you love God, you'll stop doing what you're doing. Let me tell y'all, I kept going out, but let me tell you the difference. Now I can barely finish one drink. Even my friends and I was like, "Sophia, you want to drink, girl? We don't say drink number two." I'm lost, okay. Now when I'm getting dressed, now I'm like, "Ooh, this skirt too short. Oh, hold on, let me put the girls. We showing too much." And I still like my little skirts, you know. And now that's the thing. I would wear some short skirts, but I wasn't like some people that were like the short skirts. I wore just enough to where it make them say, hmm. But I never was showing too much. Now my sister girls, I used to like my little push-up bras, and sometimes I would even sprinkle a little glitter on them. Because you be in them dark clouds, right? And so, but the Holy Ghost, mm, now I'm being convicted, not condemned, but I'm being convicted. And I thank God that he did, because there was a change happening on the inside of me. Mm. There was a change happening, and it was happening right before my eyes. And I thank God that he did it that way, because it started to show me you're not missing anything. Again, now, because now I'm so in tune with him, he is literally removing the taste out of my mouth. I'm not even want to go to the club like I wanted to. I'm not want like I said, I'm not want to have the drinks. It was such a beautiful time in my life. It was challenging at the time, but when I look back, it was such a beautiful transformation because I got to know God for myself. I got to learn his voice for myself. That became a hunger on the inside of me that wanted to learn more about him. I was reading my word more. I was learning to pray, and it was just amazing. And so I am going to end there, because again, I have a part two and possibly a part three, but I wanted to paint this picture of where I was and then my journey along the way, because this is going to go into what we're going to be talking about on this channel: faith, identity, and purpose. John 10:10 tells us that now this is Jesus speaking. The enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. But the latter part of that scripture says, but I come, again, this is Jesus speaking, so that you may have life and have life more abundantly. And the revelation the Lord gave me about that scripture is the enemy is not always trying to physically kill you, but if he can steal your joy, if he can destroy your confidence, if he can kill your purpose, he still wins. Why? Because people that are attached to your womb and what God impregnated you with, they're now in limbo because they're waiting on you and you ain't showing up. So the enemy wins, but the devil is a liar. You're going to get to where God has purposed for you to be. Amen. God bless you all. I'm so excited for the future. I'm excited. And I want you to get excited. Even if you like, sister, you don't know what I'm going through. Oh, you got to come back and you got to hear the rest of the story. Jeremiah 33:3 says, call out to me. Mm, I'll tell you. Some versions say, I'll show you those things you know not of. Mysteries and hidden things. There are some things I just didn't understand. But it took for me to call out with sincerity. And God started revealing some things for me. I had to stay in that secret place. Psalms 91. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. You got to stay in that place, even when it hurts, even when you don't understand, even when you're downtrodden, even when you've lost everything. You have to stay and you have to stand. God bless you. I want to end with something I always say, because this is truly what I tell my mentees and people that I love and I'm close to, because I realize the enemy is after our identity. He's after our purpose. He's afraid of you coming into the realization of who you are. So we have to be intentional to live our life on purpose, for purpose. Know that your purpose is non-negotiable. Amen. You all be blessed. Bye-bye.